Hello. Cybercriminals are developing and boosting their attacks at an alarming pace, exploiting the fear and uncertainty caused by the unstable social and economic situation created by COVID-19. Well, that's according to Interpol Secretary General Jürgen Stock. And he's not wrong. The way we work has changed dramatically in the past few months and has forced businesses to rethink the way in which the productivity of the workforce can be rapidly sustained using technology. This huge mass move to the cloud, although in the majority proving successful, has unearthed some very significant complications with regards to security, data protection, and compliance requirements. So with CISOs now reducing their intake of stress relief medication and breathing a sigh of relief at having successfully moved everyone off premise, their thoughts will be turning to extending the procedures and policies out of the offices and into the home of the workforce. I'd like to introduce Andrew Chilvers of Wi-Fi Maps to discuss this a little bit further.
Thanks, Mark. How are you today?
Good, thanks.
That's excellent news. Okay, yeah, so let's talk about the challenges ahead for 2020. Now, at the beginning of the year, everyone was talking about digital transformation, companies moving to the cloud, going through possible co-location, which means half in the cloud and half on premise. And then you have all the legacy applications around that. These are very much the discussions in IT departments and in companies. And the consumerization of the digital workplace. This has been a big discussion for several years now, but it's really been hotting up recently, where millennials and those from Generation Z who were born after 2000, employees expect workplace apps to start to look very much like what they use at home. You know, WhatsApp, Trello, Zoom, Teams, Facebook, etc. Also, there's the rise of machine learning and algorithms that improve automatically through experience, and the Internet of Things, of course, which is everyone's talking about smart homes, smart cities, smart buildings, such as hospitals and predictive maintenance at big manufacturing plants. And underlying all of this is the increase in security to ensure compliance, particularly around GDPR. You know, in terms of early detection and communication, cybersecurity awareness, training, etc. So all these things were being discussed late last year and early 2020, and then suddenly, you know, I mean, sorry, I was going to talk about COVID, but what I'll do is just before that, I was going to mention the sheer volume of data that is now sort of part of our lives, I suppose. I mean, at the beginning of 2020, there were around 40 trillion gigabytes of data. Today, it would take a person, and believe this if you will, a person 181 million years to download all the data from the internet. In 2019, internet users spent 1.2 billion years online, and social media accounts accounted for 33% of the total time spent online. And incredibly, 90% of all data has been created in the past 2 years. And in 2020, the beginning, it was estimated that every person would generate 1.7 megabytes in just a second. I mean, these are really fairly large numbers, aren't they? And that's where we were at the beginning of 2020. And then, of course, COVID-19 came along. And COVID-19, of course, changed everything. Along with the health crisis, it also heralded a revolution in working practices, particularly around home working. Almost half, 48% of UK business decision makers have admitted that their existing cybersecurity policies are not suitable for maintaining a 100% remote working model. This increased risk has led to nearly 2/3, 65%, anticipating an increase in phishing and breach attacks. And organizations across the world are predicted to spend some $124 billion on security and risk management during 2020, and that's despite the associated budget cuts because of the pandemic. COVID-19 is the digital accelerant of the decade and has accelerated companies' digital transformation strategies by what is a global average of about 6%. 96% of UK enterprise decision makers noted that the pandemic sped up their company's digital transformation plans. So you're looking at some significant shifts in what's been happening, certainly from the beginning of the year. In terms of digital transformation and security, 77% of companies increased their budget for digital transformation because of COVID-19. Businesses accelerating digital transformation most significantly in response to COVID-19 were tech companies, energy and healthcare organizations, in around about 74 to 80%. 99% of businesses surveyed by Twilio agreed digital technologies would open up a future of continued remote working. Again, those in the top tier of that were tech companies, healthcare, energy, construction, and retail, all in and around the 70 to 80% mark. Almost all global companies, 95%, were seeking new ways of engaging customers as a result of COVID-19. Some 92% say transforming digitally is critical to address current business challenges. So that's sort of the landscape we're currently living through. And what are the post-COVID-19 challenges, which we're obviously going through right at this very moment? 70% of enterprise chief information officers anticipate investing more in cybersecurity in the immediate future. Home-based workers would need to be educated on the risks of attacks like ransomware and phishing attacks. The rise of the gig economy is a really big issue. In the US alone, estimates are up to 60 million people are now working essentially as home workers for the gig economy. Many of them are not just taxi drivers, etc., but they're actually working for companies that have now made them part-time or whatever as consultants, etc. None of the cybersecurity trends, technologies, and processes mentioned are new, but all get more attention and more investment due to the recent events. It's interesting, public sector examples of changes in the workplace. The DWP has procured an extra IT equipment for nearly 13,000 computers to enable more staff to work from home. At the Department of Health and Social Care, more than 90% of staff were recently estimated to be working from home. And at the Department of Transport, around 94% were working remotely. So there you have some significant numbers of people working from home, and essentially what that means is that there is a much wider distributed attack surface. And this is where I bring in my colleague Mark Hubbard to tell you more about that.
Thank you, Andrew. So looking at data protection from a technology perspective and focusing on wireless, I would like to talk about the DOME technology from Wi-Fi War. This is a small device designed to monitor and analyze the airspace around any Wi-Fi network, protecting you and your corporate devices when you're in the office, working from home, or jumping on the internet in a coffee shop. With a huge ramp in distributed cloud-based insecure networks, in other words, home Wi-Fi, central IT is practically blind when it comes to protecting the workforce. I'll just run through an example, Sue, to give you an idea of what I'm talking about. You are a barrister and are key to a high-profile case. You are working from home as per your company's lockdown recommendations, and you are connected to the corporate network via VPN as instructed. And you are running the latest antivirus and anti-malware software on your laptop. But still, you get breached. You did everything correctly. What you did not know was that earlier this morning, sitting in a car outside your home, a hacker who had intentionally tracked you over the last week, knowing you were key to the case, used a sniffer to analyze your connections and has set up a malicious hotspot and spoofed your home network. So now you're connected through his machine to the office network. The VPN has been compromised using the authentication techniques. The antivirus offers no protection at all. Your data has been intercepted, and your case strategy, witness details, and statements and data core to the case has gone or been stolen. So in this situation, the DOME technology deployed on the home Wi-Fi network, central IT would have been able to alert the would have been alerted that an attacker was in your airspace, and the dome would have disconnected you from the spoofed access point before any damage was done. So taking what we've just explained about the functionality of the dome technology, we can apply it to other business areas. GDPR, for example, came into force in 2018, and in that year, just over a third, well, about 36% of organizations were actively maintaining PCI DSS compliance. But not one of the organizations that suffered a data breach that year was compliant across all 12 requirements. So in version 4.0 of the PCI Data Security Standard, the PCI Council is developing the standard to support a range of evolving payment environments and technologies, such as the cloud, to achieve a more globally acceptable level of security. So while many companies may continue to flout the PCI DSS standard, whether intentionally or not, they will no longer be able to hide behind the point-in-time assessment approach. So what this essentially means is that a quarterly audit with a big tick from the auditor won't cut it anymore. So merchants will no longer be able to pay a small fine and carry on. As a business with a point-of-sale presence, the PCI DSS states that the airspace around the deployment and that of the back office environment must be continuously monitored for unrecognized and unauthorized Wi-Fi devices, even if that business has no Wi-Fi network. So we recently came across an establishment with no Wi-Fi network where we did a short test to demo the technology, and we discovered a corporate laptop pushing out Wi-Fi requests in the no Wi-Fi airspace, and as a result of the user not switching off his streaming connection from the night before. Interestingly enough, the business is now looking at Wi-Fi networks differently because they now know that they can monitor and protect that airspace. This technology facilitates a huge leap towards becoming both PCI DSS and GDPR compliant when looking at Wi-Fi deployments in any card reader environment anywhere. So the airspace around the point of sale and back office environments needs automated monitoring whether you have a Wi-Fi network or not. So without high visibility of the traffic in these environments, it is very difficult to manage and secure the airspace and nearly impossible to achieve full compliance. So the staff is now cloud-based. The policies and procedures, security and surveillance techniques that are in place behind the corporate firewalls now need to be replicated for remote workers. Deploying firewalls out to the workforce could be both time-consuming and expensive. So the DOME technology, which offers continuous monitoring, policy enforcement and reporting, and views the distributed Wi-Fi deployments as a single network, is a very attractive alternative. Now we have a way to control and monitor the airspace any place, anywhere, anytime, cost effectively. Many thanks. Look out for our next video on US Privacy Shield, Brexit, and what 2021 data protection will look like.